This is Intoxicated Literature.
All right, welcome to Intoxicated Literature. I'm Daniella Drake.
And I'm Evelyn Crow.
And tonight we're going to be talking about...
The War of Two Queens.
That's right. That's right. I got to pull my notes up. That's why I got confused. There has been some wine. What are you drinking, Evelyn?
I'm having an espresso martini in a jar, which means it's probably like 6 espresso martinis.
Oh my god, and you've had more than half of that thing.
I know, I'm so drunk. I'm like screwed. I'm actually really trying to remember the name of this author, which is so well known.
Oh shit, Jennifer Armentrout.
Yes!
Yes.
Thank you. I actually have her name written down.
By the way,
yes.
there will be swearing.
There will be swearing, there will be spoilers, and also content warning for racism and fat phobia.
Yes. So all of those things, if none of those things appeal to you, please close this window.
And vacate the premises.
And vacate the premises. Cease and desist. Yeah. Get off my lawn. I don't know.
Adult content also.
Also adult content. So swearing, spoilers, adult content, trigger warnings for fat phobia and racism.
Yes.
And I think that was, I can't believe I remembered all of that.
You did very well.
I'm so proud.
Of you.
I'm so
Yes.
proud. You know what? That deserves a drink.
Hey,
Cheers.
cheers.
Okay. Let's get into it.
All right, so I made you read the entire series to get to this book.
You really did. You really did. And listen, I really enjoyed the world building in this. The first book especially, I thought was really an interesting concept. And I enjoyed the spin on vampires and the spin on werewolves. Like, it was a different thing that I hadn't seen before, and I really appreciated that. But I have to say, as I got into the series, there were some problems with plot. It was just distracting. And as I read on, I felt like the quality started to suffer a little bit. And listen, I understand the appeal of these books. Like, I get it. I understand why people love them, why they're so hot on TikTok. Like, I totally get it. And if you love them, that is so great. I love that you found something that you love. This was just not a series for me. Like, it just didn't hit for me for whatever reason.
I will say that the first book, while the racism is there.
Yeah.
The racism seems to get worse as the books go on, which is not a good look.
No, it's a little problematic.
So, well, I did enjoy the first book a lot, and I also did enjoy the world building, and again, fresh take on vampires, the whole thing. I don't think I'll be reading the next book. Yeah,
I'm not. It was difficult. Like, I started texting you when I was in the third book, and I was like, I cannot read this. Partly because the pacing was an issue.
Yeah.
Like, I was having a hard time because we would go through these long parts where just nothing plot-related was happening, and there wasn't a lot of even character growth. Like, I can get behind focusing on character stuff and not having a lot of plot. Like, I love cozy fantasies. That is my favorite thing to read, and a lot of that is just character development.
Well, so she goes through... So let's talk about characters. Because
Yeah.
I have the first thing I have in my notes is Cassian.
Yeah.
So from book 1 through
Not
book 3...
Cassian, it's Castile.
Castile! I'm thinking of the other problematic author.
You are!
Castile.
Yeah.
So Castile, from books 1 through book 3, is very alpha, very, this is my woman.
Yep.
Don't touch my woman. I am very alpha blah, right? He's just very like that. He is captured in the end of book 3, right? I think. Or the very beginning of book 4. Somewhere around there he is captured.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he loses that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And it's not that he is, he's captured. I understand that he is a prisoner.
Yes.
That is fine. I get that. But even after he's released, he doesn't have that, I'm going to protect Poppy anymore, or she's my girl. it's like he's a different person.
Which I could understand if she explained it as trauma or something, but it never, like, they just don't address it.
They don't.
Like, it's just kind of now he's this new person. And I'm like, okay, but that's not generally the way that people work. So
no, it's weird.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing to do with a character. Like they just gloss over that. She just kind of glosses over that.
I agree.
Especially glosses over it, considering while he's a prisoner, he learns he has his brother is still alive, who he thought was dead this entire time, and that Poppy has a sister.
Yeah. Who also is kick-ass, and I love
her sister
so
much.
I
want her sister to be the protagonist from now on.
I agree. I think that she is so much more interesting.
Yes, she just has this sass and she's just so much better.
Also, her name is Millicent, which
I know.
I mean, come on. I'm like, I would like just her story. Thank you very much.
She just seems to have this more political acumen than Poppy does, even though Poppy grew up in actual court.
Well, I do kind of understand that, though, because I feel like she did talk a lot about how sheltered Poppy was. She was kept out of everything.
That's true.
But that also makes her kind of boring as a character. Like, I personally don't necessarily...
It's like the farm boy trope,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. I don't necessarily really respond well to this kind of sheltered upbringing. They're so naive and innocent. Like, it just doesn't resonate with me. That doesn't mean
especially
that it's
because in like book 1 she's trying not to be sheltered.
Right, yeah.
She's like sneaking into whorehouses and stuff, so she's being
I mean, that first scene was fun. She's wearing her mask and she's like, I'm a big girl now. And she's so far out of her depth and you're just kind of like, oh, child.
Okay. Yeah, even Castiel's like,
yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like she's trying so hard to break this kind of view of her where she is this sheltered, naive, innocent person. But she is. Like that is. And she doesn't really outgrow that in the way I think the author wants her to. Even by the end of the 4th book.
I know, because she's supposed to be leading everybody in this 4th book, and she doesn't. Like, she doesn't step up the way she needs to in this 4th book. And I think...
I found it frustrating.
It's very frustrating, because a lot of this book is her worrying about Castile in captivity.
Yep.
And then her also, like, learning about her new powers and all of that, too. Right. And it's just... And us learning about what Heartmates truly means.
Oh, let's talk about Heartmates for a minute, because I do not generally respond well to the insta-love, soulmate, like love at first sight, heartmate thing. That is not...
To be fair, that was not what happened.
No, it's not. But that is not something that generally...
Yes.
I respond well to. No, It's just not for me. Like, I know that a lot of people love it. That's totally fine. Like, there's no judgment there. That's not for me. I will say that I was confused because she made such a big deal about the fact that Poppy and Castile were heartmates, and then suddenly now they're in a triad
with Kieran.
Kieran.
Who just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I know, and it's funny to me too because it wasn't really out of nowhere because she was kind of dropping hints throughout the first 3 books, and so to have it finally happen, you're kind of like, well, I knew this was coming, but I'm also so confused because if they're heartmates,
why the attraction to someone who's not in the thing?
Right, and it was just so, it just felt so dissonant to me. It just didn't connect. Which I think bothered me more than anything. Like, I can get past the heartmates thing, fine, like, whatever. But, yeah, it was just weird. It was just weird to me.
That's so let's just get the elephant in the room out of the way. Let's just talk about it now. Because that's where the racism comes in. So we have Kieran.
Yes.
And we have him, he is a werewolf, and he is in servitude, essentially, to Castile.
Yes.
And Kieran is dark-skinned. He is not necessarily called a black man, but he is dark-skinned. And even his name means that.
Black.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's not good.
So he is a servant to a white man, and he turns into an animal. So right away, it's bad.
Yeah.
Right away, it's bad.
Yeah.
So that already is not good.
Yeah.
And this is a very common trope, and it happens a lot.
It happens a lot. Like, white authors especially, like, just they don't realize the unconscious biases happening, right? Where they're making an animalistic culture, but they're making them be dark-skinned. And that is problematic.
I think she still is an independent author, correct?
I think so.
You know, and she makes enough. She can hire a sensitivity reader.
Yeah.
Who could have caught this. But she didn't. So this is continued now from book 1, where this started, to now.
Yeah.
So this is continued on. And now we are in a place where we have two heartmates who are connected via dream. Like, they're so connected, they are dreaming of each other and can talk to each other in their dreams.
Yeah.
And are of a higher social status than Kieran, who is essentially a servant and a soldier. And then they have, finally, which all the readers have been waiting for, because it's been hinted at, there's been suggestions about it, and then they have to bond to save Kieran's life.
I mean, were the readers looking forward to it, or were they fighting it as much as possible?
So now we feel like Kieran doesn't even have a choice in the matter. That's
what upset me, too, is I felt like he was like, oh, we have to do this thing, okay. And now he's in this lifetime connection.
Bond.
Yeah, like,
It feels really unbalanced and really fetishy and really gross.
Which is also annoying because I feel like Kieran as a character is so awesome.
I love him and I want to protect him, and it's just, it's so gross feeling.
Yeah, he's so sarcastic and he's so insightful and he's so smart, and like I would love to see him be developed into a true representation of who he could be.
Yes, and instead
he's now part of this triad, which it is unbalanced, and it just doesn't. It kind of gives me the ick.
It is completely. It doesn't seem like he has a choice. It's gross.
Yeah, it's just a little bit problematic. But also, it's not just Kieran.
No, there's Tawny.
There's Tawny, whose name also means brown.
Brown. Who is a servant for Poppy in the first book, who is killed.
But she comes back.
She comes back lighter skinned.
Yeah, with like light hair.
What the hell?
It's super unfortunate because there were so many opportunities that this could have been.
This is book 4, though.
Yes. And
I am 100% sure that someone has told her this before now.
It's
so
definitely
at some
possible.
point, I'm 100% sure she has heard this before now.
Yeah.
Because I have seen reviews.
Yeah.
So I know that it is out there. I am almost positive that she has heard this by now.
Yeah.
So at this point, it becomes denial, and it's necessary because it is so obvious.
Yeah, it's problematic for sure.
And the thing with the threesome is it felt so unbalanced and forced that I couldn't enjoy it.
Oh, well, the other reason I couldn't enjoy it is because I could not follow what the fuck was happening. I was like, it was so chaotic, and I was like, whose finger is what? Like, I don't know what's going on right now. Like, this isn't even hot because I don't know who's touching whom and who, like, what. And I understand that she wanted it to feel that way. Like, she wanted it to be so overwhelming that they even didn't really know. But, like, as a reader, I'm like, okay.
I still kind of want to know whose hand is whose.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't understand who's touching who, and, like, it kind of is important to know.
And I know that she was trying to build a relationship between Poppy and Kieran, because while Castile was in captivity, Kieran was looking out for Poppy, and like he was donating his blood to her because she needed it now because she has all these powers and stuff.
Right.
And I know it's funny because I was on TikTok when all of this was happening, and there were so many fans who were like, emotional cheating, mayday, mayday. And I remember thinking, no, this feels like friends.
Yeah.
This does not feel like emotional cheating, because at this point, it was fine. At this point, it just felt like friends, helping out friends, supporting
They're
friends.
both missing their friend who was incarcerated.
100%.
Yeah.
There was no weirdness at this point.
I do think that eventually it gets to the point of trauma bonding.
Yes.
Which is problematic.
Yes.
Because you mistake feelings for something else.
Yes. And so then we have this threesome, which is unbalanced and forced, because it's necessary to save his life. It is not something that is asked for and consented to.
Yeah.
It is necessary to save his life.
Right. It has to be done.
That is so not okay for me.
Yeah.
It just gives me so much ick.
No, I agree. It was problematic for sure.
I mean, that is dubious consension to the max.
Yeah.
Just to the max. And I know that Kieran's okay with it. He says so in the
Yeah,
book.
I mean, he's given his consent, like, multiple times. It wasn't even just once. But it still feels...
gross.
Because it does feel forced. It feels
it
like,
does.
I know that we have to do this, so yes, I'm on board. And it's like, okay, but that's not really consent then.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I do want to talk a little bit about Poppy, too, because in the beginning, I was rooting for her. Like, I was like, you know, she's a little bit sheltered. She's a little bit, like, she doesn't really know what the bigger world is, but she's trying, right? She's trying so hard to be a good person, and she's trying so hard to do the right thing, and she's trying to be strong, and I really appreciate that. But, like, eventually, she kind of just started to annoy me.
Oh my god. She just starts waffling. And she gets this feeling of, like, am I really matter? Do I really... So Armentrout falls into this same trap as SJM falls into.
Yes.
Which is, I'm going to now make my kick-ass female character into a weakling. And I don't know what that is about.
She gets nerfed because she's too powerful, and I think This happens a lot, actually, with both male and female characters, where you make them so powerful that either you have to make the bad guy be so powerful to combat them that it's believable they could fail, or, and this is what usually happens, you nerf them so that they really aren't that powerful, so that it could seem likely that they would fail, and it makes their chances of success seem less likely. And unfortunately for women characters specifically, it tends to fall in the category of, we're going to take her strongness away.
She has to sacrifice.
Strongness? I meant strength.
She has to sacrifice herself in some way to save everybody.
Right. Exactly. And that is generally reserved for women, unfortunately, which is really sucky. Like, that sucks. And it's not a Jennifer Armentrout thing. Like, that is something that happens often. Yeah. In epic fantasy, a lot. In fantasy in general, I would say. It happens a lot. Yeah. Absolutely.
100%. For real. So, yeah, and I agree with the pacing, too, because the first half of it, Castile's in captivity, and it's just like, okay, still in captivity. The dragons, though.
Oh, love them! So good.
They are the highlights of this book.
Absolutely. They just say whatever pops into their head.
Because they don't give one fuck
about anything.
Social conventions.
Anything.
Like, what the fuck are pants?
Yeah. Why do I have to wear those? That seems not comfortable.
I don't care. And, like, Poppy's like, you have to wear pants. It's like, no, I don't. I'm just gonna go kill these people. Yeah. You can't kill those people. Like, yeah, I can.
Why not?
And then I'm, like, so bored. I'm like, go fucking kill them. I want you to do something.
I know. And it does, the pacing becomes more of an issue as it goes on, which is unfortunate.
Especially because I loved the first book so much.
Right. I think that's why I get frustrated, too, is because I actually really enjoyed the first book. And I was like, I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yes.
And then it just kind of, there were diminishing returns with each book. And that makes me sad.
Especially because so we have the racism and the fetishization get worse with every book. Yeah. And then we also had, so Poppy was described in the first book as being curvy or fat. As She wasn't. She never said
She
fat.
never said fat. She said curvy, which is a cop out a lot of the time.
Oh God, so often.
So often.
So you have to. So as a person who forever has struggled with her fucking weight, I have to go. Okay, was she curvy? Was she actually actually fat?
Right.
Or was she just hourglass shape?
Right.
What does
you
that
could say,
fucking mean?
You could describe either one of us as curvy.
Yes.
But it means something entirely
absolutely different.
Yeah.
Was she a size 18 or 20?
Right.
Or was she just
size
a
4?
size 12?
Yeah, exactly.
With curves.
Yeah, exactly.
Can she buy off the rack?
Yeah.
Is the question.
Yeah, right. Well, I do feel like, and it is unfortunate, because I do feel like she started, I think, I got the impression that she started plus size.
I think so. I think book 1, she was plus size.
But by book 4...
all that descriptor?
She is now thin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, part of it, I'm like, okay, well, she's a vampire, so maybe she lost a lot of weight. Which, fine, write that in there,
but
that
put
a
it
thing.
in there. Don't just, make it disappear.
Yeah, but it was weird that it just kind of went away. And you don't see any other characters who are heavy at all.
It just kind of went away.
Yeah, it just vanished.
And so that's where the fat phobia comes in. She
Yeah.
was described as plus size, and you think you're going to have a plus size heroine, and then all of a sudden she's not.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird.
Yeah, yeah.
It is fucking weird.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, because she's a vampire, all of a sudden her metabolism is superhuman and she becomes thin, say that.
Yeah, just say that. Make that a thing.
But don't be all of a sudden using non-thin descriptors.
Don't retcon her into being thin. That's not how it works. Make her fat or make her thin.
Don't promise a reader something and then not deliver it.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because there's so little representation for plus size women, especially in fantasy.
Yes, and because already people are saying she can't ride a horse that long because she's fat. Or she can't do this because she's fat. No, I'm serious. I am serious. People are saying she can't do this exercise stuff because she's too fat to do that.
So fat people don't do things?
The thing is, fat people exercise, they hike, they ride horses, and they do shit. And they do all of that shit, and that doesn't necessarily equate to losing weight.
Well, it also doesn't... Someone being fat doesn't mean that they don't take care of themselves, that they're not healthy. That is something that we need to get out of our heads. that is not how it works.
Again, I struggled with weight my entire fucking life. And I remember having a calorie deficit of 1,000 calories a fucking day and not losing a fucking pound.
Oh, man. So, I did not struggle with my weight. My entire life, I was historically underweight until I hit 30. And then now I can't lose weight to save my life because hormones fucking suck.
Yes. It is bullshit.
It's bullshit.
So people can shut the fuck up about fat people.
Yeah, they just there's this inherent idea that fat people are lazy.
Yes.
That they eat too much. That there are so many things that are just so incorrect.
Genetics.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of factors that go
Absolutely.
into it. And people need to just shut up.
Yep.
And they have to understand that that's not what goes into it.
All body types are fine.
Yes.
Yep.
And so to retcon her into a thin person and not talk about it? What the fuck?
Not great. So bad.
And so I will say this because people are going to go to my TikTok now and be like, well, you're a thin person. I'm like, well, I am now, but I haven't always been. And so I will always consider myself a part of the plus size community because I was a size 18 to 20 for 15 years.
Yeah, it was a long time.
And it is bullshit. It just is. So Poppy either needs to be fat.
Yep.
And fat is not a bad word.
Absolutely not.
I am tired of people thinking that fat is a bad fucking word.
Absolutely
It's
not.
You can be fat. It's a descriptor.
Yep.
It's just a fucking descriptor.
I mean, Robert Jordan uses plump all the time.
All the time! There's nothing wrong with that.
All the time.
I'm fucking plump. I got fucking plump things all the way down here.
I mean, who doesn't have a little plumpness, right? I've got some rolls, you know.
God, I gave birth to 2 babies. I am plump. I am plump as fuck. So
that should be your next tattoo.
I'm plump as fuck.
Just like a tramp stamp that says plump as fuck.
Oh my god, my husband would actually fucking love that.
It'd be hilarious. Oh my god. I will pay for it.
Actually, just right across my ass. Just like plump as fuck.
Oh, so good. So good. So good.
But yes, anyway.
We're getting a little distracted. Okay. So we talked about the fat phobia a little bit. I do want to talk to you about, I know that Jennifer Armentrout like released these without really getting them edited and stuff, which
I don't think she has an editor.
listen, I understand editing is expensive. It costs a lot of money, and especially when you're a self-publisher.
I just actually looked into this. It is expensive as fuck.
Yeah, when you're a self-publisher and you're literally paying for everything on your own, like, it is a lot of money.
However, this is her fourth book, and she has hit fame.
Yeah.
People are buying her books.
And there are some things that I think an editor would help her with, and one of those things is the names. Because
I will like to say that Daniella is a accredited editor.
I am. I literally have a certificate from the University of Chicago. And if I got a book like this, I would have in the first book said, this is problematic because it's confusing.
Yes.
She's got a character whose name is Victor.
The Victor thing!
But then she introduces this whole new concept in like the third book or the fourth book.
Yes.
I can't even remember.
Yes.
Where there's also like a title of
Yes.
Victor. And they are spelled differently. But it's so confusing that she also interchanges them a couple of times.
Does.
And so as a reader, like you're reading it and you're like, I don't really understand what we're talking about right now. Are we talking about Victor the character? Are we talking about Victor the title? It's too confusing. And I think, and honestly, it seems to me like she always had in mind that Victor was going to be a Victor, which great, like fine, that's totally fine. Have a different title for when he comes into that power.
My God, it was so confusing.
So confusing. And like, unnecessarily so. And that was something that an editor could have been like, I don't really know what's happening. If I don't know what's happening, your audience isn't going to know what's happening.
It was so confusing. Like, by the end of book 4, I was like, what is going on?
I know.
Who's Victor?
And it's annoying, too, because actually Victor, the character, is really compelling.
I liked Victor.
He is
loved him.
First ally. He is the first one who's like, I am on your side always forever. Like, I have your back. And he's the only one, really, that is that to her.
I loved him.
Yeah, and then to add this concept in that adds this uncertainty and this confusion, and I'm like, you're taking away from this character that I love so much. And now I'm just confused about what the fuck is happening.
It was so upsetting. I'm like, what? I'm so confused.
I know.
Is he good? Is he not good? What's going on?
Also, there's Malik and Malik. And I honestly, all I have is in my notes is Malik versus Malik, and I don't know which is which.
So it's like, so are you trying to confuse us so we don't guess what's happening? Is that the point? Are you trying to make it so smart people get confused?
Because it's working.
Are you saying, okay, honors kids, I got you. Annotators, fuck you.
Yeah. It's so frustrating, though, because you're, like, reading along, you're like, okay, I'm following, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? Who are we talking about? What's happening?
My God!
I know. And the big twist in book 4, I feel like we should talk about it.
Okay.
Right? Because I feel a little bit bad, but I lolled. I lolled a little bit. Only because, listen, like, the twist was great. Like, there was nothing wrong with the twist. Mm-hmm. But what I lolled about was the fact that the primal of life is like, I don't want to do this like whatever. Like, he's like, no, I'm the primal of death, but I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm the primal of life now. But his powers don't work so good because he's the primal of death. And so he's messing everything the fuck up. And I'm just like, all of this because someone is like, I need a career change.
Right. Right?
And I just could not. I was like, I can't with this. Mm-hmm. Like, we knew that's where it was headed. Like, she did drop enough breadcrumbs that we're like, oh, that does make sense that this is where it's going.
It was not a surprise.
It wasn't a surprise.
But at the same time, you're just like, fuck.
And, like, slightly annoyed because you're like, so all of this is because some guy decided he was bored?
I know, right? Some dude bro is like, I have a brilliant idea.
I don't want to do this anymore.
I don't want to do this no more. I'm bored. I'm a genius.
I will be so much better at this than my predecessor, who's actually the primal of life.
Right?
Like, come on.
I'm going to design a brand new app. It's going to be great. It's like nothing anyone's ever designed before. It's just Google 2.0.
Exactly. I'm just like, my dude. What? Oh, man. I was a little bit disappointed. Like, we're reading all these books, and I'm just like, we're getting to this part, and she's building toward it this entire time. And you knew it was coming. And it hit, it landed well. Like, she did a good job building that up. But I was still disappointed in what it was.
The thing is, we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I think if we didn't know,
it would have been easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there is a fine line that authors have to walk where it's like you have to drop enough of crumbs. It's about setup and payoff, right? We talk about it a lot in entertainment, especially. Like, there's like setup and payoff, where you have to set it up in enough of a way that when it finally cracks, people are like, "Oh shit, mind blown!
And
this is amazing."
This is where the pacing also
agreed
was a problem, because it was like so slow in the beginning, and then the last, it wasn't even 25%. It was like the last 10%.
Yeah,
was like, holy shit, it's all happening right now.
It was just like too much, too fast,
and I couldn't keep up, and my brain couldn't absorb what was happening all at once.
She needed to start that sooner.
Yes. Because
it was too much. Like, I read it and I was like, I don't even know what the fuck I just read.
I know. It was literally so much exposition and so much action all at once.
I had to go back. I went back and read it again. Because I was like, I feel like I missed something. But I didn't.
I didn't. But I was still like, wait, my brain processing. It was like literally the processing circle.
Exactly. It's the rainbow wheel.
The rainbow wheel kept spinning. And I was like, okay, wait, I gotta go back. I gotta go back.
Exactly, yeah.
So, and I think, again, an editor
would have helped with that.
With the pacing.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what kind of editor you're paying.
Yes.
Obviously, but a developmental editor definitely would have helped.
Yes.
And I think one of the notes, like, if I had gotten that book as an editor, I would have been like, here, listen, like, overall, love the way you're handling this, love the way that this is working, but the pacing is not great. Like, there's so much plotting in the beginning, and then the last quarter is where everything happens.
Yes.
And we need that to happen sooner. Like, make it the last third.
You're so in love with your fucking heart, mate. Who the fuck is Kieran?
I know. Yeah.
How is he connected to all of this?
It's so annoying, too, because I really do like Kieran.
I love him so much.
I think he's such an interesting character.
To have someone who he deserves.
Yeah. Who he chooses.
Yes.
Like really
actually chooses.
Yeah. Isn't forced into. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree.
Because he deserves someone who loves him
Yeah.
for who he is, and he gets to choose.
Yep. Exactly.
Because he's amazing.
I know that we complained a lot about this book. And honestly, I also understand why it became a TikTok sensation.
It's like the J.J. Abrams of fantasy.
It is. It's flashy. It's quick. It's entertaining.
Yes.
Right? That is what it is.
Lots of lens flares and lots of, it's literally the Star Trek of fantasy. It really is.
Yep. And honestly, like, I really did enjoy the first book. Like, I really did. I read it so fast. I was like, oh, this is so interesting and different, and I was here for it. And then each book started to, it was kind of like Terry Goodkind.
Yeah.
Right? Where you read the first one, you're like, oh my god, this is so great. And then you read the next one, you're like, oh, okay, this was pretty good. And then you read the next one, and you're like, this wasn't very good. And then you read the fourth one, and you're like, yep, I'm out. This just wasn't, it didn't connect with me. And I know that people still are here for it. Like, that's fine. Like, nobody's telling you what you can and can't like, obviously.
No, I'm not telling you to burn your books, man.
Absolutely not.
I'm not.
Never. I would never tell anyone to burn books, ever.
I am not.
But I'm not going to seek out the next one.
Probably going to be reading the next one.
Yeah, it was just, the pacing issues for me was too much. Like, the fat phobia, the racism.
The
like,
racism. The fact that the racism got worse every book.
Yeah. But I also just, like, the plot was not...
The plot wasn't...
I don't know. Yeah, it was just diminishing returns for me, which was unfortunate. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So, if you love them, great. No shade on you. Love you. Like, you do you. I'm sure that I read things that you probably don't like. Which, fair. We all have our little, like, guilty pleasures, right?
I have a shame shelf. It's over behind me.
Me too.
I just don't talk about it. That's why it's a shame shelf.
Exactly. That's what I have as well.
And I'm not telling you what's on it because it's a shame shelf.
Yeah. But I do reread them occasionally.
But, yeah.
I wanted to like it so much. And, like, honestly, this could be something with me, too, where I came in with higher expectations and it just didn't quite meet them. Right? That happens sometimes with movies where you go in thinking it's going to be amazing, and then it's just okay, and then you're disappointed because it was just okay. And I think that's how this kind of ended for me, was it was just okay.
I would be interested to see you read one of... I have to look it up now because I can't remember because I'm drunk as fuck.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
I've had half a bottle of wine.
Something about drinking all of his fucking espresso martinis.
I can't believe you're drinking espresso martinis. My heart would be pounding out of my chest.
It's just coffee liqueur. It's not actual coffee.
Have you seen me drink coffee?
Okay, you little Energizer rabbit. Whatever.
I literally sit there thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna die today.
So I would say that the youngins on TikTok felt the emotional cheating aspect of this book stronger than
interesting. That's so interesting to me
people.
Because I did not see it as emotional cheating. Like, I really didn't.
I didn't get that at all.
I didn't get that at all. And I'm trying to think back. I'm like, okay, well, is that something that's wrong with me? Because that's my first response. Am I the problem? But it just really didn't come off that way. Like, they set up from the beginning this kind of friendly banter.
They did, and she even watched him, like, have sex before.
Yeah, but I kind of did feel like that was borderline. Like,
I know. It was weird.
It was like, I'm watching you have sex, but I kind of wish that was me.
I know. And even when he, like, sent it to her, like, mentally, it was kind of like a poke. It wasn't even kind of like a,
right,
I want you to like this. It was kind of like, I'm a brother, and I'm kind of like, hee-hee.
I think that's kind of why I had such a problem with, like, him bonding with them, is I felt like from her side, she was finding him attractive, but from his side, he was more like, we're like, you're kind of like my sister, and I'm taking care of you, and it's so funny that you watch me have sex. Like,
yes!
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
It's like, I never really thought that he found her sexually attractive.
Yeah, I agree.
Until it came time to this fucking bonding thing.
But then also, like the bond, when you're doing that ceremony and stuff, like, she made it such a deal where it's like, you're so overwhelmed with emotions and feelings and stuff that if you were doing that with your worst enemy, right, you would find them attractive.
Right.
and it would be sexy.
Yes.
And that's the problem for me,
Yes.
is that I feel like all of it was not really consensual on his side. Like, it was so forced on
Yes.
him that, like, if he was a woman,
Yes.
would we be still rooting for this?
Or even someone who was lighter skinned.
Right, and I feel like no. I feel like
Yes.
if this was a woman specifically, I don't care what color your skin is. If this was a woman, I would be like, her agency was taken away from her, and she did not have a choice in this. Like, it was like, your life is on the line, you have to do this, and of course you're gonna say okay.
Yeah. Or like if your boss asks you to do this.
Right. It's just,
There was an extreme imbalance
Yes.
in this whole thing.
and then how does it work now that they're bonded and he's like a part of their triad?
Because they're
but,
like heartmates, but he's not.
right,
So
and
how
they're
does that
also
work?
like royalty and he's not. So what does that mean for their dynamic? How does that translate?
Castiel's like not alpha protective, except with him, but he is with everybody else.
Yeah, there
It's
were just so
super
many
weird.
things that I was like, this just isn't working for me. Even
I
though I
know.
knew it was coming, it just didn't land the way that I think she was hoping it would.
I know.
And that's super unfortunate. Like,
I know.
it was just slightly disappointing,
It was.
really.
It just felt really gross.
Yeah, it just felt, it just made me sad.
I know. I know. It felt really sad.
Also, that scene could have been super hot, but I had no idea what the fuck was going on, so it was not hot.
I'm a big proponent of MMF scenes, and I was just like, what?
I didn't know what was going on. Like, I couldn't follow whose hands were where. I didn't know what was happening, so it wasn't hot. Like, I don't know who's touching whom, and like, so it wasn't like I got nothing out of it.
It was the most, dare I say, generic
Right.
sex scene
Yes.
I had ever read.
And it should have been
One of the hottest.
one of the hottest because it was MMF, and it
Yes.
just did not. I was gonna say something, and I'm not gonna say it now.
Oh no! Now you have to say it. I can edit it out, but now
It
you have
didn't
to say
stoke the fires.
It. There you go. Yeah.
Which was unfortunate. Like, I don't know. I feel like Kieran constantly gets kind of like the dregs.
Short shafted.
Yeah. It's just kind of
Yeah.
like, here are the leftovers. This is for you.
Yes.
And it just makes me sad because he's such a smart, fun, interesting character, and I would love to see more from
And
him.
I feel like that's kind of how it works with the werewolves in general. Is they get the fucking leftovers, which is what makes it so fucking
Which
problematic.
sucks because they're the muscle. Like, they're literally the ones out there fighting, and I want them to have more agency.
And that's what makes it so
I
fucking
know
problematic.
it's unfortunate for
It
sure.
is.
Yeah, for
bad.
sure. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the next book will be much better.
I don't know, but I'm not gonna read it.
I'm
so.
not gonna read it either. I had a hard time getting through this one. By book 3, I was halfway through book 3, and I texted you, and I was like, I can't read
You
this.
were so angry at
I
me.
was so angry. I was so mad. I was like, why the fuck are we reading this? Okay. Let's talk about our next read, which I'm super excited about.
What was
It is Legends and Lattes
Woohoo!
by Travis
A
Baldridge.
cozy fantasy, like
I
person.
love
It's
my
like,
cozies.
So
I do. That's what I'm writing. That's what I love to read. It just makes me happy. So
Yes.
I'm super excited to talk about that one.
we may be sisters, but we different. So
We do have different tastes, for sure. That's not to say that I won't read the dark romances and the...
Well, I don't read dark.
No,
dark.
that's true. Okay, let me change that too. I won't shy away to the monster romances and the paranormal
I mean, I do
romances.
tend more toward the spicier stuff.
Yeah. That's just not my thing. I like high fantasy, and I like urban fantasy, and I like... Is that your bottle all gone?
All gone.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
I told you. I'd be
Mother
hungover
Mary and Joseph.
tomorrow. It is gone. It is empty. Anyway, Legends and Lattes.
Legends and Lattes is our next book, so join us next week for that podcast. This is not my final moment. My finest moment. Oh, Jesus. We're so drunk. Somebody stop me.
Okay. So, yes, we will see you next week when we talk about the cozy fantasy, Legends and Lattes. And it's going to be super, super sweet because it is a fabulous cozy fantasy. I'm Evelyn Crow.
I'm Daniella Drake.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Intoxicated Literature. Drink well, friends.